And this wonderful panel session is going to be moderated by Moritado. Please, a round of applause for them as they come to the stage.
JM, I hope I've been enjoying the wonderful talks by the speakers so far. All right. Yeah, this panel session actually is something that is kind of personal to me because personally I'm a Web3 developer trying to make my journey into protocol development. And that is exactly what this panel session is about. And if you are a Web3 developer like me who is trying to get into protocol development, I'm going to advise that you listen to the insights by my wonderful panelists and take note of what they're going to be talking about. So we're just going to get started. We have limited time, so I'm just going to ask the question first. And then when I give you the microphone, you introduce yourself, tell us a little bit about what you're doing, and then you can answer the question. Right? Does that work? All right. Yeah. Thank you very much. Because you're the closest to me, so I'm just going to start from you, David. My first question to you, David, would be what core skills do you think every Web3 protocol developer should master beyond just coding?
Hi, everyone. Uh, my name is David. I'm the co-founder of Polytop Labs, the team behind Hyperbridge. So a core skill I think protocol developers should master would be, a core skill I think protocol developers should master would be learning how to read technical papers, and technical documentation. Like you have to be able to read let's say the Bitcoin white paper now and be able to understand what it's saying and be able to implement it to some extent. So I would say that's the core skill that a protocol developer requires because most of protocol development is research. So you do research, you find issues you're trying to solve, problems you're trying to solve. You do research into different protocols, then you come up with a solution. And this research mostly involves reading technical papers. So that's one core skill I would say like a protocol developer should develop.
Thank you very much, David. That was a wonderful answer. Research, reading technical documentation is a core skill for any aspiring protocol developer. You must be able to read white papers and all. Thank you very much once again. Francis, hi. Okay. So my question to you, Francis, is going to be, what drew you into Web3 development? And how did you decide to focus on protocol development rather than building dApps?
Okay, hello everyone. My name is Chinonso Francis. What drew me to protocol development? Well, I think like getting into the space, it's always like interested me, like getting to understand how everything works under the hood, right? Like getting to know how every other thing, like how the infrastructure works, that every other thing is built upon. So that's basically what drew me to protocol development, like having that technical understanding of how everything works under the hood.
Yeah, thank you very much, Francis, for that answer. So, for him, what drew him into protocol development is he wants to know what goes beyond just building dApps. We're building dApps on blockchain, and he wants to know what exactly is powering this blockchain. How is everything coming together? And I think that's like a wonderful inspiration. All right, wisdom. My question to you is: there are many blockchains and protocols out there. How should a developer who is trying to like find their fits in protocol development decide which ecosystem or which protocol we should build on? Because everything just they come.
Okay, so everyone, my name is Wisdom. I am a ZK research engineer. So before I was a protocol engineer at Dash Protocol, and then I worked with Scrove as a senior ZK engineer. And now I am Francis, and which are building like a ZK research lab here in Africa. So that's the very wrong question to ask me in particular because that's not something that I optimize for, right? In my head, the idea or the main idea here is that you need to search for growth. Like that's what you should be maximizing for. So you are at a certain level, you have a certain set of capabilities that you can do right now, And then the idea is that don't be stagnant, right? You need to figure out some plan, some strategy to increase your capability set, right? So in the case now, it's not like a chain per se might give you that. It's more like this internal drive to want to know more and know more and know more. So protocol development is just like one instantiation of this problem, right? Like if you are at the DApp layer, you have like competition, right? Like a lot of people go into that because of it has minimal barrier to entry. And then that increases competition, and then that reduces the pie that you could take. So protocol development is now like the next phase, right? So you can basically like optimize for something more difficult that has a higher barrier to entry. And then that basically increases the opportunities that you could have. So sorry, I have no answer for like which particular chain you should do, because I feel like that's like optimizing for something that might not necessarily be what is most important.
Okay. I love that you mentioned you are a ZK researcher, right? And you're building something around ZK for Africans.
A research lab, yeah.
A research lab, exactly. So how did you choose ZK? What was that click for you that, oh, this is something I'm interested in, this is something I want to build on?
So it's exactly that same idea, right? When I started my journey, I started as a front-end developer, right? And I stumbled on like HTML, CSS. I just stumbled on the book, and then I was like, wow, so all these websites that I've been visiting, I can actually build it, right? So I started learning that, and then after a while, I was like, this is too easy. I've gotten to the point where I kind of like understand it, but I want to improve. So then I went to backend development, and I did that for a while, for a very long while. And then I realized that same problem. I have gotten to the stagnation point. I need to improve. So then I started learning like Bitcoin, Ethereum, blockchains, and then I learned so much that I got a job at Dash, right, where I could like practicalize this stuff. And then at the same time, I got to a point where okay, I have gotten stagnant. I kind of like know what I need to know. Now I need to move on again. And then that's where ZK now came in. But ZK is still a journey that I'm kind of on. But it's just this like search for more and more and more and more.
All right. Thank you very much, Wisdom. That was very, very insightful and packed. All right. Back to you, David. Yeah. So, my second question to you this afternoon: what advice would you give to developers who want to not just build, but also leave a lasting impact in the Web3 ecosystem beyond building?
Okay, so I'll say the first thing you need is you need to understand the core offerings of Web3 and blockchains. So the most successful protocols are built around these core offerings. So you need to understand that, okay, blockchains provide majorly three things. They provide decentralization, verifiability, and permissionlessness. So any protocol that is being built on the blockchain or using decentralized technology should somehow offer these core values. If you are building something that is not offering these things, then the chances of success are very low. So you need, you can even see a lot of protocols that are not really, they don't really have these core values, but they still market themselves as having all these values, because everyone that is in Web3 and blockchains, they come here because they want to use something that is permissionless, that is verifiable or decentralized. And that's why DeFi is the most successful application of blockchains, because generally financial applications, they are much better when you don't have to KYC and like give up your sovereignty. So you need to build around these core values if you want any success. Yeah.
All right. So building around these core values that you've mentioned, thank you very much. Next question is going to be to you, Francis, right? So my next question to you is, if you were starting your Web3 journey today, what path would you take differently?
Okay. Well, starting my Web3 journey today. Well, I think one thing people, or let me use like an example to illustrate that what I'm to drive at. Some people, when starting Web3, they tend to just jump right into Web3, right? But one thing they tend to forget is that Web3 is kind of like an extension of Web2, right? So if you know the fundamentals of Web2 very well, it's very easy to get into Web3 and perform excellently in Web3. but then like some people just jump into Web3 without like any basics in Web2. So I think like mastering the fundamentals of Web2 is something that I would say if I was to do it differently, right? I would have gone say that part, and then like, well, generally I think my journey has been, there's nothing I would like to change. Because like I
love that.
enjoy my journey. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. So, as a developer that is trying to get into the Web3 space, you need to know that mastering the basics of the Web2 is very, very important because, like everybody knows, Web3 is not just Web3; it's powered by something, and it's powered by Web2. So, without Web2, there is almost no Web3. So, mastering those basics in the Web2 is very, very important. Thank you once again, Francis. Wisdom. My next question for you. Looking back, what were the biggest challenges you faced when you were first navigating the Web3 space, and how did you handle it?
The biggest thing is time, right? The biggest currency to get good is time. You can use money to buy time, but money is not the direct currency. Time is the direct currency. So the biggest thing for me was figuring out how do you survive while also optimizing for the long-term goal, right? You know, it's not just short-term, okay, I'm trying to survive. And then you're just stuck in this local maxima where you always have this idea that, okay, I need more money, I need more money, I need more money, but I want to do this thing, right? And then you never break out of this local maxima to go and pursue what you really want to do. So the biggest challenge is figuring out some kind of structure to survive and also pursue long term, right? Then once you have that time, obviously that's a very hard problem, but assume that okay, if someone found time, we can discuss more about like how to do that. But then once you have that time, it's now like okay, fundamentals really matter, right? Like really learning the fundamentals allow like because there's a lot of variations in knowledge. Like certain things are instantiations of something more fundamental. Like once you understand this fundamental stuff, all this other stuff are really easy. They're just like, oh, it's this thing, but you change it this way. It's this thing, but you change it this way. So some people might get overwhelmed learning all the variations. But then once you focus on like fundamental knowledge, you can basically pick up these things really easily. So time, that's the biggest thing. Figuring out some mechanism is hard, but there's a way to figure out some mechanism to get that time currency and then exchange that time currency for growth, which can give you more money, which can give you more time, which can give you more. You see the flywheel. Yeah.
Right. Thank you very much. I love how you mentioned that you know, most of us now we're trying to study for the long term. We want to focus on one thing, but at the end of the day, you have bills to pay, you have to survive, right? So you need to find a way to like balance it. I think I was having this conversation today with Yinka about how okay, I want to do this, but then I also need to survive. I can't fully lock in on one thing because I need to lock in on something else that's going to keep me going, right? My natural next question for you is going to be, you said there's a way. My natural next question for you is going to be, what is that way?
So I'll just give an example of the way I did it, right?
Okay.
So I have this idea whereby if you present to me two opportunities, okay, one of them pays me a certain amount, let's say X, right? And then another, but it gives me minimal time, right? So it pays me X, but I don't have any time to learn anything. Then I have another opportunity below my skill level, earning less money, but gives me more time. To me, the choice is simple. It's really simple because I'm not optimizing for the local maxima. This salary, this X, is not the end, right? So I'll take the thing that will actually give me less money, enough to survive, but gives me time. Now I have that currency that actually matters for growth. So I do my work, and then I take out time to learn something more advanced, something that can fetch more long term. And then when you keep on doing this, so it's hard, right? That now I can't do that anymore, but before I could. So when you do this, what happens is that you now get to a point where you have developed another skill to a certain level. Now you can cash in that skill in the market for more money and potentially the ability to learn something even more advanced. And then it's just this mechanism that you're just like pushing forward. Now, the way I do it is I go into the market full time for a long period of time. I accumulate savings, and then I just, so that right now I've not been working for like a year, right? Just doing stuff, trying to build stuff. But that's like, I'm relying on like the savings that I accumulated over time, yeah.
All right.
But it's just time. Time is the currency.
Yeah, thank you very much, Wisdom, for that. I believe every one of us would have picked one or two from that insight. Yeah. My next question to you, David, which is also going to be my last question. It's actually a question we would all answer. Is going to be, if you had one piece of advice to developers looking to find their path in protocol development, what would it be?
I'll say contribute to open source. That's one of the major ways to get ahead in protocol development. There are many open source protocols that have fellowships that allow you to contribute, and they might even pay you to do this. Like I think Ethereum has a fellowship, Polkadot has a fellowship. So you have to like be willing to contribute, even if it's for free. Like even if they won't pay you anything, you need the experience, because generally no one will give you a chance if they have not seen what you can do. And the only way to show what you can do is through your open source contributions, because most projects in Web3 are based on open source. And if you have no significant contributions in open source protocols that most of these projects use, then there's really no way for you to get the required experience. And usually for you to get ahead in something, you need to study, like you need to do an apprenticeship. So open source contribution is the way to go, yeah.
All right. Thank you very much, David, for that. Guys, open source contribution only does not just focus on the ones that are going to be paying you. Try to contribute to projects as well, just to get the experience. All right, Francis, if you had one advice to give to a developer trying to find their path in protocol development, what would it be?
Okay. For me, I would say you should build interesting stuff, right? So, like, sometimes we see people, or we hear people build, let's say, an LLM, or let's say build a protocol from scratch. Like there are some of these examples out there, right? And like there are tutorials basically to help you build, let's say, a blockchain protocol from scratch. And you can take one of those tutorials, walk through it, because it will give you like fundamental understanding, basically first-hand knowledge, right, on how the different parts of this protocol work. So it may not be easy, but then like if you try to see that you finish it and probably like make it public, that would be a very good way to show that you truly know this protocol, right? You truly understand it. Like building a protocol from scratch, if you don't understand that protocol, you can't build it from scratch, right? So I think that would be like one example. Just pick a protocol you're interested in. Find out if they have like tutorials on how to build the protocol from scratch. If they don't, you can as well like do that, right? Try to break down the protocol, try to understand the different components of the protocol, and then you can try to build, say, one part of the protocol. After building that part of the protocol, you can look for the next part to build. And after building the different components of this protocol, you can decide to stitch them up together to build like a product. I don't know if that makes sense, but that's
all right. Thank you very much, Francis. Guys, try to build a protocol. It's one very good way to learn. Actually, you learn more by doing rather than just sitting down watching tutorials. Right. Wisdom. One advice for a developer trying to find their path.
So I'm sorry that my advices are not very like concrete. They're more like abstract, but there is a reason.
No, we love it.
I
we
know
love
why I'm
it.
doing like that. So, for me now in this case, so depending on what you're optimizing for, right? If you're optimizing for loss of like a job or for impact, if you're optimizing for impact, what's the most important thing? You know what you're doing, right? You have the capability, and then you can solve impactful problems in the space, right? That's if you're optimizing for impact. If you're optimizing for loss of a job, or you need to do two things, right? You need to have the capability and you need to show that you have the capability. Like those two things are really important. And that's where both of the advices come in, right? Like you cannot build if you don't know, right? But then when you know, you should also like build. So the way I look at it is like you pick like a hard problem beyond your skill set right now, but it's relevant to whatever it is that you're trying to do. And then you go for that, right? Once you have solved that problem, you would have increased what you can do now, right? And you also have a shippable intermediary. So shippable intermediary is like you have like a long-term goal, but then you need to like produce stuff that people can see, right? So those are shippable intermediaries. So you take a target that is shippable, so project-based building, right? And then you learn everything you need to learn to achieve that. Once you have achieved that, you publish that. Now you are showing you have the capability and you are also building the capability. And then now that you have gotten better, you can pick something even more advanced and then just continue doing that. So open source is like an example of like a way to show and also learn, right? But then there are other ways you could do that. Like just follow curiosity, build, and then just like show. That's the key thing, to be honest. But it's not limited to protocol. It's just doing hard stuff, like doing the stuff that are like really hard and really impactful, the things that actually move the needle. Yeah.
Do our things, guys. All right. Thank you very much, Wisdom, for that. With this, I will have come to the end of this panel session. I know we would love to keep hearing from these wonderful speakers. You can connect with them later at the event. I'm sure they're going to be around. If you have questions for them, you can ask them questions and they'll be available to answer your questions. Thank you very much, David. Thank you, Francis. Thank you, Wisdom. And thank you, guys. A round of applause for my panelists, please.